Hey guys, Octavian here. This is episode number 35 in my series 100 Casts, in which I will be shoutcasting over 100 games of League of Legends sent in to me by fans and friends. If you want your replay to be featured on the series, just check the description. You can figure out how to do that down there. Anyways, thanks for coming along. I'll see you at the end of the video. Hi there guys. Octavian back once again. I've got another 100 Casts episode for you. I believe this one is going to be episode 35. We have, well, two teams as usual. This one was sent in to me by the Washout, who's going to be playing Quinn down in the bottom lane along with the Blitzcrank. That's a very heavy damage comp. To be fair, for the bot lane at least, Quinn is not a very commonly picked up AD carry, but to be fair, she does have some merits in the laning phase. She has quite a bit of damage and very high 2v2 dueling potential because of that blind. She's going to be going up. Sorry, I just have to mess with some of the settings here. Don't let that bother you. But she's going to be going up against a Graves and Kale, though. So I think the blind will be reduced in effectiveness a little bit against that matchup, since Graves, while his auto attacks certainly matter and do hurt, does not rely on them as much as some other AD carries might, since he does have buckshot and collateral damage to do a good amount of his burst damage. Still though, blind going to be somewhat effective. Also, the Kale is something I'd like to touch on as far as the bottom lane matchup goes before I move on to some of the other ones. The Kale is really interesting here. Now, I'm not sure whether it was picked after the Blitzcrank, but or before it. But Kale support actually does quite well against a Blitzcrank, because a Blitzcrank will force an engage by landing his hook. And Kale, if she uses Divine Intervention correctly, could just remove all of the burst damage that the Blitzcrank and Quinn are going to be trying to do to the Graves, or to her if she gets hooked. So the Kale support actually, I think, a pretty decent pickup against the Blitzcrank here. Unfortunate that she did just tank out a good amount of that blue buff for a Mumu. Just a little bit of an unfortunate situation there with who was grabbing the aggro of the jungle camp. Kale stood a little bit too close, and Mumu took that. So that actually might really hurt Purple Team's bottom lane. But I'll move on to some of the other lanes. In the middle lane, we have a Karthus versus a Katarina. I want to put that in favor of the Katarina towards the later game. Karthus will have the advantage early on. He does have the spammable long-range harass, and he can push better, though it looks like Katarina's actually getting the advantage in terms of push here. Probably just been autoing that minion wave a ton. She does have some AoE as well. It looks like she took her W first. So yeah, Katarina looking to try and stay even with the Karthus in terms of push and get that level 2 around the same time that Karthus will, so that he doesn't have a level advantage. Meanwhile, up in top lane, Yasuo may be going in for a little fight here with the Master Yi. No, he backs away and then dashes back in. And Master Yi alpha strikes him and they trade pretty much evenly. But yeah, it's a Master Yi versus a Yasuo in the top lane now. Yasuo's a great pick. He's a good champion right now. He's very, very strong in the current meta, but I don't really like him with this comp, mainly because there's nobody to work with his ulti down in bottom lane, though. Blitz landing a hook onto the Kale, and she's going down very fast. This Kale's incredibly squishy. Now, in middle lane, Kaz is going for the first gank of the game and forcing out Katarina's flash. The red buff slow was too much for her to not flash away there. As now Master Yi's getting ganked, second gank of the game, coming right after the first one, but Bandage Toss goes wide. Master Yi pops the ghost and jukes back away from the Amumu gank. Swiftly running out of that lane, saving his own life. Did cost him Ghost, but hey, I would take that any day. Ghost for being able to live. Oh, Blitzcrank flashes forward. He really wants this. Kale flashes away, though, just in time. The knockup actually went through from Power Fist, even past the flash. That's how last second that flash was, as now Katarina might have bit off a bit more than she could chew. She shunboed forward to the minion wave, but I don't think that was the best plan. Karthus slows her up with Wall of Pain and then lands Q after Q, and the Ignite tick under the tower. Gonna get the first blood for Karthus. That's not good for Katarina. I was talking about that matchup earlier. She's gonna have the advantage later on in terms of the champion matchup, because she can assassinate a Karthus and then with those resets get out after his passive starts and not really have to deal with the fact that with Death Defy he'll stick around even after the her burst manages to finish him off, if she can do that. But getting behind is not gonna help her out. Karthus certainly does not fall off as the game goes later and later. Looks like we might get another game coming out of the Amumu. He's roaming down towards bot lane. There was a ward that spotted him out though, and Blitzcrank tosses a hook his way. I'm pretty sure it wouldn't have been a good idea if that had connected, actually. It was a little bit over-eager from the Blitzcrank, because this Graves is getting a little bit over-eager himself. He uses quick draw to dash in towards the enemies, takes a bunch of harass. Amumu has turned around from where he was killing a ward up towards the river, and he's gonna land the Banish Toss on the Blitzcrank, doing some good damage to the Quinn as well, but she falls backward as heal is popped, and now Blitzcrank lands the hook, pulling the Amumu under a tower. He's saved only by the heal from Graves. Very conscientious AD carry helping out his jungler there, but that was a little bit too aggressive from the Amumu, and to be fair, a little bit too aggressive from the Graves as well. He kind of started that one out by quick drawing forwards. I always love it when you can deny someone getting CS with blind, as you guys may have noticed right there. Quinn did shoot out her blinding strike, and it stopped the Graves from picking up 1 or 2 CS, so nice little mechanic use of that ability. You can do the same thing with Teemo's blinding dart if you are ever going to be playing Teemo. Up in top lane, Yasuo pushing in the wave. Tosses out the third proc of his Q onto the wave to push it up a bit better. He's doing pretty well against this Master Yi. He's got a small CS, so there's nothing really to be writing home about. As now Kayle gets pulled back. The blind is blocked by a minion though, so she's gonna get away. Taking some decent burst from the Blitzcrank, but Quinn, because of that minion, was not able to get any of her damage in there during that little window of opportunity. Blitzcrank might be positioning for another hook though. Kayle is fairly low in health and still has not hit level 6, so she won't have that counterplay against this Blitzcrank pickup. She does have the range advantage to harass him down, but not really been working out for her. Her positioning has not been the most perfect this game, and she's been hit by a few of those hooks, so the trades have not really been working out in her favor yet, but it looks like we've got a Amumu coming down to try and rebalance this bot lane once more. Kayle using the speed buff on herself to try and get some good DPS out onto the Blitzcrank as the Bandage Toss manages to connect onto the Quinn. She vaults backward to gain some distance, goes back under the tower, and Blitzcrank turns around with the hook onto Graves, and he's forced to flash away. Same story, different main character. Another enemy player getting hooked into the tower by Blitzcrank. So now back in mid lane, Katarina dodging out a few of those skills after chun-poing in. Trading pretty well against this Karthus, despite giving up first blood to him. She's managed to stick around in terms of CS. Not quite as high as he does. Very nice Elder Strike from Master Yi, completely dodging out the knockup that Yasuo threw his way. Trading very well. Items are starting to be picked up. We see that Quinn's going with a Vampiric Scepter. Not really much can be said from that alone, though. There's a lot of different items that could build into, so we'll have to wait a little bit longer before we really get into build analysis and talk of those sorts of things. So we'll get back into some of the matchups, and the one matchup I didn't actually touch upon so far was the Kha'Zix versus Amumu, actually. Now, I really don't know who to give that to. In the early game, I would have given it to Kha'Zix, but up until, because he can invade, and Amumu does not outduel him in an invade. Kha'Zix, even after his set of nerfs, is very, very good in a one-on-one invade. That's just what he's good at. So I don't think Amumu, down in bottom lane, the hook landing on the Kayle, she gets hit by the blind as well, some good burst. She does have the speed buff to get herself back to her tower, but she took a bunch of damage and doesn't have very much mana left. But anyways, the Kha'Zix versus Amumu matchup, later on, I want to give that to Amumu though, like hands down, because Curse of the Sad Mummy is just such a powerful team fighting tool. And they have Katarina and Graves for AoE teamfight damage, and I mean, even though Yasuo doesn't have any knockups on the comp, aside from his own, if he lands his own, he can be very, very effective in a teamfight as well. So Purple Team, probably going to be looking for some of those AoE teamfights later on in the game. Though to be fair, Karthus does offer a good amount of that to his team as well. Hook going a little wide down to bottom lane. Not too much action going on there, but there might be some in the mid lane. Blitzcrank, I mean not Blitzcrank, Amumu's roaming to the mid lane. Curse of the Sad Mummy, the first usage is going to be getting him a kill. Karthus, though, has his ulti as well, and he doesn't care about death. The Dirge brings down Amumu. Even past death. Karthus has both kills now for blue team. He's doing quite well coming out of this lane phase. Gonna be very difficult to shut him down, having given up those 2 kills to him. They did get that kill back. Hook not quite landing in time. Kayle managed to get back to base. Very lucky on her part. Blitzcrank and Quinn still pushing up here. Bot lane has seemed to gone pretty well in favor of blue team, though to be fair, there's not an actual tangible lead on the board. They are pushing in all the time, so they're getting some damage onto the turret, but they haven't actually gained a CS lead for the Quinn. Well, technically she has a 1 or 2 CS lead. They haven't gained a tangible CS lead that matters. But they have gotten some good damage onto this turret here, softening it up for later when they decide to finally go and take it. Don't know when that'll be, but once they decide to do it, it'll be a lot easier for them. Builds have started to germinate, though, so we can take a look at some of those. The Kale's going for a Chalice of Harmony pickup, in addition to that Spell Thief's Edge. So she's going to have a lot of mana regen, looking to spam out the Reckoning and Righteous Fury as often as she can, going for a higher damage build, or higher damage output in a longer period of time rather than burst. Which actually, I don't know. I don't really like here, but the Amumu trying to go for a gank here. He does land the max range bandage toss onto Washout on the Quinn, and now Anger of Ruby trying to use that speed buff on Blitzcrank's W to escape from the Amumu. He's scared away by the Ignite, so he does manage to escape. Is now up in top lane. Yasuo is in trouble. He gets slowed by the Bilgewater Cutlass, forced to flash under his tower to get back to the safety that turret does offer. Manages to escape from the Kha'Zix gank, as Graves is now pushing up. Down in the bottom lane. Tides have turned. Ooh, the hook landed onto a cannon minion rather than the enemy carry. And doesn't even give that CS over to Quinn. Takes it for himself. Anger of Ruby, being the greedy Blitzcrank support. Bandage toss goes wide. The Amumu messing up this gank in the middle lane, and Karth is going to be able to simply float on away because of that. Sometimes you don't aim correctly. It's fine. It happens to all of us. But it is a little bit unfortunate for the Amumu that it happened right then, because that would have been a great gank setup for this Katarina, really bringing her back into this matchup. Though to be fair, she is still basically even in terms of CS. Behind a kill, but even in terms of CS. So sticking around in this game, not falling off the map quite yet. She's going to be doing fine in the later game. I'm really excited to see some of the team fights that'll be happening later on in this game. There's a lot of AoE team fight possibilities coming out from both teams. Though to be fair, blue team is a lot more pick-centric. The Karthus is kind of the oddball on this team here. They have Kha'Zix, who's really good at picking somebody off alone. Quinn, who can drop into Valor and fly after somebody, pick him off really easily. And Blitzcrank, who can do that, flashing forward and lands the hook. Max range onto Kale. She goes into intervention to try and escape here. She does manage to for now, but up in the top lane, we have Master Yi getting ganked by the Amumu once more. He's doing a lot of work across the map, but doesn't manage to finalize the kill. That is Curse of the Sad Mummy down, so that's a lot of tools burned for the purple team in the top lane without really much in return. And it looks like Kale managed to get away safely. Did have to burn Flash and her ultimate, though, so... Oh, wait, no, Flash is off cooldown, so just the ultimate, but in middle lane, we see that Katarina's going in for the engage here. The exhaust is dropped on the Karthus, but it's not going to be enough! He survives with 20 health left! This Karthus thanking his lucky stars that Katarina didn't sneak one more auto attack in during that little engagement. I would like to say well played, but really that was more luck than outplaying. Sadly, Katarina on the other side of the coin flip there. Blitzcrank lands hook onto a minion, and then takes the minion for himself once more. Anger of Ruby occasionally just claiming one of the minions for his own. Anyways, I was talking about the builds earlier. The Chalice build for the Kale is interesting. I believe I've already talked about that one though, so we'll move on to some of the others. Mumu has gone with the Spirit of the Ancient Golem rather than any damage items. Now you can go either way as a Mumu. You can either go full tank or you can go armor pen, off tank, bruiser. EP bruiser, by the way, not AD. AD Amumu is not something I've seen very often. But I digress. So he does look like he's going for full tank here. The Spirit of the Ancient Golem lending itself to that very well, giving that bonus 25% health ever since his pre-work. And speaking of Amumu, he's coming down towards bottom lane, waddling in to try and make a gank happen, but they have this lane warded up very often, so maybe Kha'Zix can make something happen in the middle lane. The Katarina does manage to avoid the wall of pain, so doesn't get slowed up by that, as Amumu sweeps out the ward and takes it down. But looking at the whole map as a whole, really, blue team is ahead by a little bit here, so... And they do have the Karthus on their team. They have the later game scaling. I would say that Quinn and Graves both do perfectly fine in the late game as far as AD carries go, but neither one's a real hyper carry. And speaking of Graves, the Kha'Zix is down here for a gank. The hook lands on the Graves. He gets pulled back. He gets knocked up. Kha'Zix does a huge burst of damage. And Washout on Quinn finishes that off, as now Karthus might be in trouble. Flash forward from a movie. Karthus manages to flash away from the bandage toss. That's got to be depressing for him. He's going to go cry about that at some jungle creeps. And they won't care. Nobody cares about Amumu's problems. Yasuo, though, doing well up in the top lane. I was about to say that he's doing good, but actually it looks like Master Yi's got the CS lead up there in that lane. Not by a significant margin, not even by 10 yet, but he has gotten it. Hook lands on the kill. She's taking a ton of damage. She's forced to use her divine intervention. She's invulnerable, thankfully, or else that ult would have meant her death. But I don't think she can save this tower. First turret of the game going over to blue team. Wash out picking that one up on Quinn. And the flash. I think that was probably fat fingering the button by accident. I'm just gonna let that one slide. Dragon getting picked up now. Blue team is a very good Dragon team, and Baron team for that matter, with Quinn's mark being guaranteed to proc on the Dragon when it's the only target nearby. Kha'Zix's doing good isolated damage with his Q, and Karthus doing good isolated damage with his Q as well. Karthus' Q does have a similar isolation effect to Kha'Zix's. Sort of. If it hits only one target, Karthus' Q does bonus damage. I believe it's actually double damage. Whereas if it hits multiple targets, it does half damage. As now the Amumu's trying to go in for the gank here onto Karthus. However, he's kind of, well, no, not alone anymore. Yasuo has run from the top lane, and Katarina's there as well. The very edge of the third Steel Tempest lands onto Karthus, off to the side. Or Kha'Zix, rather. Sorry, they both begin with Ka. And double kill going over to Katarina. She's gotten back into this game big time with that little engagement. It looks like the turret score is going to be evened up as well. This is good for purple team. They were a little bit behind in terms of gold. They're going to need something to get them back into this game. And this looks to be that something, so good for them. Turret score 1-1 now. Kill score 4-3 though. Blue team does still have the lead there, as well as in terms of gold. They're about 2,000 up, but they were up more than that before. So purple team starting to bring themselves back into this game, start to lessen that gap as much as they can. Nice blue buff steal as well coming out from the Amumu. Looks like he's going to be roaming up towards the top with the Katarina. Could be a tower dive here onto the Master Yi. Now Amumu decides that he doesn't really fancy that. Gets spotted out by Kha'Zix though. He's going to leap after him. He hits him with the slow from his W. Turns around with Bandage Toss, doing some good damage back, and actually dissuades the Kha'Zix from continuing the chase. Yasuo and Katarina were too much of a threat for him to keep chasing forward. Kayle, though, in range for the hook, gets hooked under the tower, gets knocked up as well, and so much burst that she doesn't even have time to intervention. Very well-placed silence from the Blitzcrank, as now Graves is certainly in trouble. Drops back his Bilgewater to slope the Blitzcrank, but he doesn't care. He flashes forward. He knocks him up with Power Fist. Karthus ulti coming out, both for top lane and bottom lane, but he's actually not going to get any kills. Does get 2 assists, but Kha'Zix and Master Yi finish off the 2 up in top lane while Quinn takes down the Graves. Well played across the whole map for blue team, garnering for themselves even more of a lead. They're about 3,000 gold ahead now. Now, that's not going to get much better for purple team unless they can make something happen here. Karthus does not exactly fall off, as I was talking about before. And if they can get picks later on in the game, they can just delete people nearly instantly. Kha'Zix and the Quinn doing good work in that respect. Looks like they're going for another tower as well. Top lane being pushed by both Karthus and Kha'Zix. He goes in and gets exhausted by the Katarina nearly instantly, though. And Blurs is on a killing spree. Now there's a teleport coming into top lane from both teams. This is suddenly a huge engage up in the top lane. Master Yi coming in with Highlander running as Yasuo shows up as well. Karthus gets the shutdown back onto Katarina. Drops the wall of pain. It's not really going to do too much, though. But Master Yi's around to finish off the kill onto Yasuo. I believe blue team came out ahead. No, that is a 2-for-2 trade. 2-for-2 trade overall as Blitzcrank grabs the white for himself. Maybe was going for the Amumu, but Amumu says, we'll all come anyways, even though you missed the hook, and he brings down Blitzcrank. He's chasing after Washout on the Quinn now. The Tantrum does not connect, but the Bandage Toss does, and the tears are ticking down, doing their dirty work. Reckoning comes out from Kayle. Washout is slowed. Washout's going down. Shutdown gold going over to Nick Mister on the Graves pickup. The turret does fall in top lane there, in the Master Yi, which was the original focus of blue team before all of this action happened, but they do eventually get it. Or was that was the second turret in top lane, actually. I didn't realize Master Yi was pushing quite that hard this whole time, but yeah, Master Yi does get the second turret up in top lane. 3-1 turret lead for blue team, and they're still up in terms of gold by nearly 4,000. Only 2 kills ahead, but all of that global gold is doing a lot of work for them. And purple team gonna have to respond in some way. They lost the dragon as well as a few towers. Ooh, nice damage coming out from the Karthus. Doesn't really want to keep chasing that though. Too many members of purple team nearby. Wouldn't be a prudent decision most likely. You know what's interesting? Graves went with the Blade of Ruin King. Now I've seen this before, and I understand the reaning. With quick draw like he just cast, it does allow your dash to come back more often if you build some attacks beyond Graves, because every time you auto-attack, the cooldown of Quick Draw is reduced, if it's off cooldown. Looks like we might have an engage here, though. Kha'Zix leaping forward does not quite land the... does land the slow into Katarina. Not going to be enough, though. Hook comes out as well. The wall comes out. They really want this. They don't even have any more cooldowns up to engage with, but they're still chasing. Yasuo and Katarina still out of position, trying to catch on to this. Kha'Zix leaps forward, activates his ulti, and manages to get some CC onto the Yasuo, and that spells his doom. Now Blitzcrank chasing after Katarina. Lands the hook, has the slow from Iceborne Gauntlet, and she gets deleted. Double kill for Kha'Zix. That was quite a tenacious engage from Blue Team, but they did eventually get the goal that they so focusedly set their eyes upon. And now they're going to turn those eyes upon Baron. They do have a very good Baron team. As I mentioned earlier, Master Yi is quite good at taking the Blade of the Ruined King. The Kha'Zix with isolation damage, as well as the Karthus. Really, everyone here is great at taking Dragon and Baron, aside from the Blitzcrank, but he's the support. What are you, asking the support to be really good at taking Baron too? Do you want like a Trundle support or something? You gotta give him a little bit of leeway there. They do trade the Baron for a turret down in bottom lane, but I'd take that trade. After a turret for a Baron, that's fairly worth it, I'd say. They're probably gonna get an outer turret of their own as well. They're pushing up the middle lane here. Doing some decent damage. The Amumu goes in with the Vanish Toss onto Blitzcrank. Curse of the Sad Mummy used as well onto only the Blitzcrank. Turns around and lands the hook to pull the Amumu out of the tower. And Amumu is forced to flash away. The tower's still probably gonna go down too. He goes back in with the Bandage Toss. This guy wants blood. Now Katarina has shown up. Death Lotus gonna finish off Anger of Ruby on the Blitzcrank. Washout forced to run away. The ward drops. She's gonna hop in with Shunpo. Then goes into Zhonya's though, giving Washout enough time to drop into Valor to try and escape there. The speed buff does get him out of there, as now Corruption has shown up on the Kha'Zix, and Katarina going down to a final Q from the Karthus. Double kill for Karthus, who's 6-3 now. Finished off the Rod of Ages. Looks like he's going for... actually going for multiple items here. He has the tier stacking up. Could be going for a Rylai's Crystal Scepter with that Giant Belt as well. Very useful item on Karthus. Making all your magic damage slow makes it all the harder to get away from your AoE magic damage. Makes it so that people have to stay in your circle of doom for longer. Is Master Yi going to take the blue buff from Blue Team? I don't know about that. I'd rather giving it over to Karthus, but he already has one actually looking down at him. And he was busy doing Dragon with this Kha'Zix. I really don't see any way the purple team can take this one. They didn't have any vision. They didn't have anyone nearby. So another Dragon going over to Blue Team. Still have a 2-turret lead in terms of global gold. And speaking of global gold, they picked up a Baron. They picked up a Baron before 20 minutes into this game, or around 20 minutes rather. So that is certainly working in their favor in terms of global gold. They've got a nearly 10,000 gold lead now. Just about 8,000, really. Kayle getting hooked back into the team, and she is just instantly gone. Damage from Karthus is getting a little bit of seed at this point, and Quinn's not doing too terribly either. She's 4-1 coming out of that lane. But a decent creep score as well. Second turret in the middle lane going down as the hook goes a little wide. Katarina Shunpo right out of that one is now Amumu trying to go for an engage here. He has Curse of the Sad Mummy up. He lands it on the 2. However, Katarina's a little bit too low to really consider this. She goes in with a Death Lotus and then instantly falls. Graves has shown up though. Can he clean up? He does get one kill. Oh, yes, he does get one kill into the Blitzcrank, but then goes down as Kha'Zix shows up. Reinforcements arriving for Blue Team. Quinn getting the double kill. 3 members of Purple Team. I can't seem to count today, but 3 members of Purple Team going down for 2 for Blue Team. So, well, it was a closer fight than some of the ones Purple Team have been getting recently. It still was in favor of Blue Team, and I don't really know what Purple Team can do at this point. Take advantage of their really good teamfight wombo combo. If they can pull out a 5v5 engage where Kayle ults the right target, now that's something that's going to be really important. Kale's ulti in these fights, it's going to matter a lot. She's going to have to land that on just the right target at just the right time if they want to win one of these team fights, because they keep getting deleted way too easily, and that's the best way to fight that, having someone not be able to die for a certain amount of time. Putting it on Katarina while she's in Death Lotus or Graves just as he's getting engaged on by the enemy Kha'Zix or Master Yi or something could be the right move here for Kayle. One of the things that I see a lot of less experienced Kayle players do is wait until someone's low on health and then drop the ulti on them. Now, sometimes that can be a good plan, but generally you want to drop your ulti on someone when it's going to do the most work, when it's going to prevent the most bang for your buck. As Kayle's ulti is dropped onto herself there, she gets hooked in by the Blitzcrank. As now Kha'Zix is a little bit trapped in enemy lines here. There's 4 of them on him. He's forced to flash away and use the ulti to escape as well, as now Karthus is right in the middle of the enemy team doing a lot of work. However, Amumu is going to pick up the kill onto Kha'Zix, as now Blitzcrank is low on health as well. Karthus ulti coming out from off on the side there, picks up the kill onto Kale. Katarina forced to go into Zonius, dies as soon as she comes out though. Rampage for wash out on the Quinn. Now Graves is being chased down. He's slowed up by the realize that the Karthus has in fact finished up, and the Alpha Strike at max range, picking up the kill onto Graves. And an inhibitor turret being pushed onto, up in the top lane for blue team. Karthus and Master Yi both here. Karthus handling the minions while Master Yi handles the tower. That thing's going to be going down very, very soon and very, very effectively. Inhibitor as well, most likely falling. They've brought Quinn along for some help. Those crossbow bolts and sword swipes bringing down the inhibitor. First inhibitor of the game falling for blue team. They have a 7-2 lead. And in terms of turrets. And a more than 10,000 gold lead in terms of gold at only 25.5 minutes into the game. This game looked fairly even for the first 10 minutes, and it was just suddenly snowballed out of control in favor of blue team. This is starting to look bleak for purple team. Well, rather, it was starting to look bleak about 5 minutes ago, maybe 10 minutes ago for blue team, but now it's starting to look cataclysmic for purple team. They've got to find some sort of miraculous ladder to climb up to and get back into this game. And it's not going to be their blue buff. Karthus stealing away that one. Blitzcrank pulls the little minion and claims it for himself, continuing his rampage of claiming unimportant objectives for his own. Anyways, with all the gold that he's gained from doing that, the Blitzcrank has finished off an Iceborne Gauntlet. That's an interesting pickup. Does synergize well with his kit, his passive. Works very well with it. Getting that extra mana means his mana barrier does more work. The proc as well is nice. After you pull someone in, it makes it a bit harder for them to escape. And deals a bit more damage. Blitzcrank isn't really the damage source for blue team. They have plenty of that already. But a little bit more damage is never going to go amiss. So long as you aren't building super glass cannon as Blitzcrank support by doing it. I have seen some full AP Blitzcrank supports before, and it is fairly hilarious, but I don't think it's the best way of playing him. Kha'Zix now finding Graves up in the jungle, and this is a 1v1 between a fed Kha'Zix and an underfed AD carry. We know that story. Graves is not long for the world. He goes down very quickly. And now blue team have the man advantage on the board, and Baron's going to be up in about 30 seconds. Or 40 seconds, rather. They do know that, too. They're the last team to take it, so obviously they have the timer. They can just hit tab and see that pretty little timer that Riot put there for them, showing them when the Baron will be up. Looks like they want to go for an inhibitor tower, though, which is a good call. If they can force this inhibitor tower, it's going to be a more valuable objective than Baron anyway. But there's a 4-mana Mumu ultimate. Very well-placed Curse of the Sad Mummy, and blue team's getting turned around on now. Katarina picks up a kill just after Amumu does. She flashes forward. She has the reset. She wants to go in. Drops the exhaust onto the Kha'Zix, but they're focusing a little bit too much on the Kha'Zix here. Quinn shows up from the side with Valor running, gets the double kill. Yasuo's trying to go back to the bush, but Valor's about to check this. Valor finds the Yasuo sitting in the bush. Triple kill for Quinn. And a turnaround fight for blue team, as Master Yi has been pushing this whole time and picks up the middle lane inhibitor turret. And is on that middle lane inhibitor, turns onto the Graves when he shows up. Lots of damage coming out from the Master Yi. He's on a killing spree. This is not looking good for purple team. This might very well be the victory here, actually, for blue. There are 4 members of purple team down, and they're going to be down for a good 10 seconds minimum each. They don't really want to go for the push here, though. Quinn's a bit too low on health. They don't want to go for the game-ending push. They are happy with taking down 2 inhibitors, and to be honest, who wouldn't be? That's a perfectly fine thing to take down. Ooh, Katarina might be going for an engage here. She does. She gets immediately broken. Oh, wait, no, she did have Death Lotus. The animation of the W confused me. I thought she used Death Lotus and was immediately broken by the vault, but oh my god, the damage from Kha'Zix. Red buff finishing off the kill, as now Amumu showing up, trying to finish off the kill onto Kha'Zix here. He's very tanky, but he doesn't have very much damage. And Blitzcrank just running by for a drive-by knockout from his Power Fist. Not really much was really accomplished from that, but he felt like doing it. He was happy with the results. This is looking bad for purple team. 6 turrets in the hole, and more than 10,000 gold as well. They do still have a good wombo combo team fight, but there's only been one real execution of that I've seen come out from them this game, and that was that fight just recently with the Amumu Curse of the Sad Mummy onto 4 members. And speaking of Curse of the Sad Mummy, it gets dropped in Karthus and Blitzcrank, but he doesn't have any friends around, just like Amumu, to try and do things without any friends. He goes down. Anger of Ruby picking that up on Blitzcrank as Master Yi comes around a little posthumously with the Highlander running. Wanted to get in onto that action, but was a little bit late to the party. As now, oh, very nicely hooked from Anger of Ruby. Picking up the kill back onto Yasuo. Blue team going to be pushing up the middle lane now. Valor being dropped here. The attack speed bonus going into Valor, as Quinn, by the way, does give you a huge boost attack speed, so it can take down turrets more quickly. And Kale is deleted. And I think this game's going to blue team here. GG, everybody. Well played from both teams. I will see you all tomorrow. The best part of you will live on. Thank you guys for watching. That was episode 35 of my series 100 casts. 36 will be out tomorrow. Hope to see you then. And many thanks to The Washout for the use of his replay. See you guys tomorrow.